And this is from the same conversation. Hopefully this sounds a little bit better. But this is Nina Turner talking about the role of the wealthy, saying, quote, "Cry me a river for the wealthy and elites in this country." Here's her kind of response to Jason Johnson, who we heard from earlier.
Everybody would defend the wealthiest people in this country over the working people of this country. We need real campaign finance reform to the extent that a Mayor Bloomberg can totally finance his campaign. He doesn't have to go out to the people. He doesn't have to build a movement. He doesn't have to talk to people. He can buy his way. It is the same attitude that the elites, maybe Jason likes the word elite over oligarch, but it's the same attitude that the elites had in 1930 against FDR. All of them lined up against him, and he said, "I welcome your hatred," because he was standing up for the people. And that is the same message that Senator Bernie Sanders has to the everyday people of this nation, that I welcome the hatred of the elites because I am standing up for you. So cry me a river for the wealthy people in this country.
Yeah, so that idea of Bernie Sanders and the campaign of, well, the idea that his campaign welcoming the hatred of the elites in this country, do you think that's a strategy that could pay off for him?
For Bernie?
Yeah, for Bernie and the Sanders campaign in general.
Yeah. You know what? I think regarding, well, I mean, yeah, he definitely does have a lot of hate coming from the wealthier donors in this country, especially ones who donate for the DNC, for example. And I think that the policy that I think that Bernie really should go by, I mean, that policy definitely isn't a bad one, but I think that what Bernie definitely should go by is just throw the facts at them. I mean, I feel as if that some of them just say things that are baseless. I mean, almost like what Trump says about Bernie. Like, I think it's hilarious when Trump calls Bernie like one of those like socialist people. I mean, look, Bernie definitely is pretty close to socialism, but he's nothing near like Venezuela. Like when the Republicans are like, "Oh, Bernie should go to Venezuela and see what they're like." I mean, like literally on the debate, they had to ask him like, "What would you be like Venezuela?" And he was like, "Absolutely not. I don't stand for those human exploitation in Venezuela." I mean,
that's really an authoritarian regime right there.
Yeah, I mean, that was such a stupid. Yeah, I mean, and then like, "Oh no, socialism." I mean, there are aspects of socialism in it, but it's more due to the fact that they have such an the leaders, not even the government, the leaders of that country. Maduro has such an overarching arm over that country. It's not even like the country has no potential. They have a lot of gas there. But Maduro's taking all of that money for him and putting it into his pockets, which is really what is hurting that country so much.
All right, I do want to take a moment here to listen to CNN and what they're saying. James, can you hear me all right? Can you hear me all right, or is it really quiet?
Oh, yeah, I can hear you pretty good, yeah.
All right, cool. So take a listen to CNN. They are about to talk and bring you through a voting process that's going on right now. So you may hear a little bit of CNN if you're wondering. That's why, because we're doing the CNN feed here. So this is what they're talking about. This is a voting process going on in Sioux City, Iowa.
11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26.
So pretty much what looks like going on, they're just counting the votes for Warren. They're counting the votes, like literally as the TV cameras look on, they're counting the votes in Sioux City, Iowa for Warren, and they counted for Bernie earlier, and Pete Buttigieg and all those people. I don't know if we're getting that good audio on this, but
He's going to call it out to the precinct chair. Elizabeth Warren, 30. Elizabeth Warren has 30.
So it looks like here Elizabeth Warren there with 30. Sanders up on front with 42, and Steyer with 2 people. That's just in one precinct there over in Sioux City, Iowa.
Klobuchar, Sanders, and Warren. Those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 groups will remain viable and are going to be awarded delegates. At this point, we will allow those that are non-viable to engage with the groups that are viable. The viable groups may engage with the groups that are non-viable so that we reach a consensus and complete the second alignment. So at this point, groups should be engaging the You have 20 minutes, or hopefully not longer, but as long as it takes. But let's go 20 minutes, given that we don't have that many non-viable groups. So proceed.
Okay, well, so they're going to start to with the viable candidates groups. All right, let's show you who won the first round first. Okay, here are the numbers. The 5 viable candidates: Biden, Buttigieg, Klobuchar, Sanders, and Warren. Only 2 non-viable candidates: Tom Steyer and Andrew Yang. Andrew Yang, I got to say, a little more numbers there than we thought he would get here, because we didn't anticipate very many for him at all here, but he's got.
Yeah, so it looks like what they're hearing there looks like Sanders won the first round. Yang did a little bit better than they expected. This is, again, a caucus at Sioux City, Iowa, that region. And it looks like Yang is doing a little bit better than expected, but Bernie Sanders seems to have won the first round here. If they look at, because they have it up on a poster board, it's really kind of easy. First, it's very, very by the low tech. Let's just put it that way. It's not the way you think a caucus would run. So does it surprise you? Do you think Yang really and Yang supporters could come out in force tonight a little bit more than most people would expect?
I think Yang really is an underestimated candidate. And the reason why I say that is because I think he brings possibility. I mean, people look at him in a way of possibility. I mean, he grew a business in a way of not cheating the system, unlike Donald Trump.
Yeah, I mean, he grew a test prep business. Like, you can't get more less sketchy than that.
Well, I mean, I don't really think that Yang is too sketchy, though. And the reason why I say this, I think he's genuine with what he wants to do.
Yeah, he's very.
I think he's very genuine.
Likable.
Like, he wants to help people out. Like, he's not like, oh, I'm going to help you out, but I'm going to like make my pocket deeper. No. I personally like the idea of the $1,000 a month freedom dividend that he was talking about, and I think that is really what's going to drive people, especially out in Iowa, for example, where really being hit right now by the trade war, any sort of money could really help them out. Now, I think Yang is an underestimated candidate. Do I think Yang will do better than most people think? Yeah, I think he will, and the reason why, he's been on the ground a lot in Iowa.
Yeah.
He's really been fighting like really hard. I mean, he's gaining support every day. I mean, I follow him on Twitter, and they have like a lot of people who are always getting put onto sort of like as new followers, and like people who are really making a difference for him in Iowa. And he's like, I don't think he's going to win the nomination, but he's definitely going to be a shock. I think he's going to be like one of the small tier candidates that we had back in 2004, like when John Kerry miraculously won the primary back in 2004, or even in 2000 with Al Gore. That was a little bit of a shock for some people there. Mm-hmm. But I don't think he's going to win it, but I think he might pull off a little bit of a shock in certain areas. I think he might come in third or second in some states where people never would have predicted.
Yeah, I think that's definitely, definitely in some areas he could have a chance. I think that's really because people like him. They think he doesn't change his positions. He's a very chill guy, like someone who can get along with everybody. And he's kind of has been almost like memed on the way to the top. And we both know some Andrew Yang supporters, and they kind of come out in unsuspecting places, So like, what do you think? What do you think is Yang's biggest appeal? His policies or kind of his persona overall?
I would actually argue both. I think his persona is really what people want. I mean, he's a no tough kind of no BS type guy. He wants to get things done for American people. I mean, he's like ripping off. He's basically unlocking the door that's been locked for hundreds of years in this country, and he's unlocking the door of potential. That's what I'm trying to talk about. I think he wants everyone to do well. And I think that his persona people like. I mean, he really is down to earth, I feel, with what he says a lot of times. And I think that his policies as well show that in the sense of his freedom dividend. I think people like the idea of actually getting money back by taxing companies that haven't been taxed for the last couple of years. People like that idea. And I think that the other part of his policy that people like a lot is the policy that he'll have for our healthcare problem and for our environment. I think that that's really what also drives people to him, it seems like.
Where does Yang stand on the environment?
He has in my opinion, actually a better option than the Green New Deal, what Bernie's going for. His quote-unquote Green New Deal is basically a plan to make America a zero-carbon and a zero-emission economy by the end of 2040, while also using thorium nuclear, which Bernie's plan does not call for. And the reason why I like that is because it's a viable option. We look at what happened in Rhode Island during a heavy snowstorm. All 4 of the wind turbines off the coast of Block Island were jammed shut. Now, they say it was because of the heavy winds, but the winds were gusting at 50, 60 miles per hour, which, while yes, that's very fast, supposedly the wind turbines are supposed to have wind stoppers in the sense of not actually going off the wind, going crazy, turning so fast to the point where the thing might explode. But, I'm not saying wind's not viable. I would support wind any day of the week over what we have now. But I think that we need to have options that actually work right now. I think wind is still a new technology. I think every energy source right now is a new technology. I think that solar is a lot more viable than wind. But I think that thorium nuclear definitely should be in the picture because it also creates a lot of jobs. I think that, we got to really focus on making as much clean energy jobs as possible. And thorium nuclear, I definitely think, should be in the picture now. His other part of the plan also calls for a more enhanced recycling program, which when I read the Green New Deal, I didn't really see that with the plan. And what the enhanced recycling program does, it's going to do basically what Canada does. And what Canada does is they require every single company that uses plastic to use either a number 1 or number 2 plastic. And the reason why is the lower the number, the less new plastic that is used in the creation of it. And also it makes it easier to recycle because only 1 to 5s can get recycled right now in the US, but number 1s and 2s are a lot easier to recycle. And that is in his plan. And the other thing that's also part of his environmental plan is the idea of banning gas cars in the way distant future in 2040, which Bernie's plans, I think 2040 or 2050, one of those years as well. Not really too much of a difference there. But I think what Yang's policy really brings into picture is the potential that we can have instead of just doing things like wind and just doing things like solar. Because while, yes, we can power the entire country with wind and solar, I mean, it's been proven. There's no question about it. I think that we should also really focus on other ways in which we can also do it. I mean, he also has called for a net zero for all transportation sectors by 2040, and net zero standards for new buildings in 2025, which is similar to what California has done. But I think that his plan definitely is, in certain aspects, a little bit bolder than the Green New Deal, but in other aspects, I think in some aspects, definitely does lack certain qualifications for it to be called bold.
Yeah. So, okay, that's definitely something that could get a lot of attention. People care about climate change is the second most important issue, it seems, in the entire slate of issues. And it looks like, from what we see, the people who care most about healthcare, no surprise, went for Bernie Sanders. Healthcare is the most important. 41% of people, according to CNN entrance polls, say that this is their most the issue they care most about. This is the fact that the healthcare is the most important issue. And there is some fear around the subject because there has been some mistakes made with the subject in the Elizabeth Warren camp, and they are kind of feeling the brunt of it. And the Warren camp is really talking about the importance of a realignment here now. So not always the place you want to be. One Elizabeth Warren advisor tells CNN about how they're viewing all this using a sports analogy, saying, quote, "The game is not over at halftime." While alignment number says something very, very important about a candidate's initial support, Warren's advisors are stressing the fact that they believe what happens between the first and second alignment, persuading those who didn't pick you the first time and bring them into their corner. This is more about a candidate's strength heading to the rest of the nominating contest and ultimately the general election. Yeah, so do you think that narrative could help Warren a little bit in terms of making her case? Because I don't really think that's going to really get her anywhere if she can't get the broad base of support. Like, she can't really try and say that she's a winner even though she's losing. Kind of, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I do what you're saying. I don't think it would really help her, though, because I think the problem that she had, I mean, look, she sort of threw her campaign into the garbage pail after she said that thing about, Bernie saying to her privately that no woman could win the presidential election.
Yeah, that was ugly. That was ugly.
That was definitely ugly. And it didn't even help her out at all. I mean, she lost a lot of support after that. I mean, she literally lost more than 15% of support. I mean, it was disastrous for her campaign. And, I think that what Warren should really be focusing on is just dropping out, honestly, in my opinion, dropping out. Because if she really wants to show her case as someone who wins, well, then let someone, who's actually like progressive, like Sanders, win. I mean, she calls herself progressive, but she's not. I mean, same thing for Buttigieg. I mean, he calls himself moderate, but I would argue Buttigieg is definitely a conservative Democrat.